Hello? Everyone hear me? Okay, it's my first time streaming here, so be nice. So today, well, a little introduction before. You probably clicked on this video because you want to be a 10x lead haxor, and I'm gonna show you how to do that. So if you want to be a 10x haxor, first thing you gotta know to do is build web scrapers, because most of the work that haxors do is stealing data. Just kidding. We won't be stealing any data. But in all seriousness, learning web scraping is super important. A little background about myself. I'm a software engineer. Learned to code when I was like 12, 13. Started messing around with web development as a teenager. When I say learn to code, I don't mean be competent. I mean I did a lot of Python tutorials. So I want to get started and show you a little bit of how to ignore that. So a little bit about how to build some things and a little maybe show my process, have some fun. Also just need to sort of talk as I code sometimes, and this is a fun way of doing that. Yeah, my name's Jared Wright, and let's get started. So first thing I like to do is I like to create my folder. Whenever I create anything, I like to create a folder. So I have my dev folder here. I'm not going to ls because I don't want any shady people seeing my magic. So first, I'm going to mkdir a web scraper. Let's say like 10x leet haxor scraper. Just to be very clear. So let's cd into here. And I'm a Sublime guy. So I'm going to open this up. Let me make this bigger. I'm going to open this up with Subble. And cool. So we have a empty playing field that we can do whatever we want on. So I'm trying to think, like, what data do I actually want to scrape right now? Like, what's like a cool thing to do? Like, let me think. Let's be creative. Whenever I want to be creative, I go to one place. I go to Hacker News. So what do we want to scrape today, kids? What do we want to scrape? What do we want to do? Show. What do we want to do? So let's actually go, because I'm thinking Hacker News, just because I go to Hacker News like every day. And I know there's a Hacker News search, so maybe we could do something interesting on Hacker News search. Because like, okay, so I just started a startup recently, and I'm like, okay, I want to actually do something that will help with my startup. So I want to, because a lot of starting a startup is like knowing trends. What's a way I can get trends by looking at this Hacker News search? Like if I could ever, okay, I know I'm all over the place. I apologize. Just kidding. So what if I did something here where I was able to get a capture of all the topics, do some kind of scraping, and then string magic, maybe some tokenizing and some clustering, which we can do later. But first we'll just do the scraping. But some tokenizing and clustering to do some topic modeling on top of the data we scrape. So, and then we could be able to, as soon as we run the script, get a tap into what people are talking about on Hacker News. Okay, let's do that. So the objective. This is what I like to do whenever I build something. So I'm going to make a to-do dot, let's make it a readme, dot md. And in the readme, you gotta have a readme. In the readme, we're going to say, what are we building? A web scraper. Who are we? Lead. And why are we now? And what? So we're building a web scraper, and what does it do? So our web scraper will scrape Hacker News, Algolia. By the way, this site right here, this Algolia site, this is the what's it called? This is like a index from a third-party company that indexes Hacker News. And if you don't know what Hacker News is, it's a news site for elite 10x haxors. And if you don't know what it is, actually just look it up. But it's on news.ycombinator.com. And this is mostly for people that know things, this stream. So if you don't know what it is, this might not be the stream for you. Okay. So our web scraper, what will scrape Hacker News? It will scrape Hacker News. Okay. After we scrape Hacker News, we will do topic modeling, ML, to see the top recent Hacker News topics. Okay. And what will we code in? Children. Node.js, as we always do. So if you don't know me, I code Node a lot. I also code in Python a lot. Python Node, that's what I code the most in. You might see me coding in C if I'm dead, and you might see me coding in Ruby if this was 10 years ago. But right now, I will be coding in either, you'll see me coding in Node or Python, or if I'm feeling lucky, it'll be Go. But I'm not exactly a Go expert. And I'm mostly kidding. So like C, you should write code in C. Not Ruby. All right, so Node.js. And the technologies, other than the language. Technologies, let's say, what are some technologies? What are some technologies that we'll use? Just realize I need to charge my, 1 second, ladies and gentlemen. So I need to charge my John. All right, so the technologies we're going to use are like Python, Puppeteer. And if you don't know what Puppeteer is, luckily you have Elite 10x Haxor who can tell you what Puppeteer is in a second. Okay, so let's get started. Let me save this file. This is our README that us Haxors are going to always look at and never just ignore and pretend like it doesn't exist. So let's make a to-do. And the to-do I'm actually going to outline, because I like to outline what I'm going to do before I do it. I always like to do that. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to say set up project. Oh, I shouldn't have opened up and created this file because now I actually have to adhere to it. Jesus Christ. So, okay, we have to set up the project. We have to install the packages we need, set up our file structure, create our classes, really just the functions we need, really just map out the functions we need. And, okay, and start coding. Finish and go to Hacker Valhalla. Okay, so now let's get started. So first things first, set up the project. Really what I mean by that, if I'm talking about Node, is npm init. Okay, and this is 10x Elite haxor. This is version 0.0.1. This is description. A web scraper, entry point index, test command, no get, and yeah, license doesn't matter. Who cares? Okay, we don't license our code because we're not betas. All right, so we're gonna go, and by the way, you're gonna see me go through a lot of other code I have because that's how I code. Is I actually just copy other shit that I did over and over again. So here's just some Puppeteer script that I have. And I just want to get the name of Puppeteer. Oh, it's just called Puppeteer. So I'm a dumbass. So first things first, I want to npm install Puppeteer. Now let's get started in topic modeling. I'm not gonna get a topic modeling. I'm not gonna think about how we're gonna do that yet because we may want to do some clustering. Right now, I just want to get the content. We may want to use some transformers. Actually, let's use some transformers. Okay, let me make a note of that. So, transformers for something. Language modeling. So now I'm thinking, what if we used, and if you don't know what transformers are, look it up. Just kidding. So transformers is a machine learning concept, sequential modeling. So ChatGPT, that's the T, GPT is transformers, and it's essentially a model in which you create a distributed hash table of tokens and their meanings in language and how they relate to each other using attention mechanism. And that doesn't mean anything to you because you don't know what transformers are. So really, if I could be non-nassal for a second, all transformers is a way to get a ton of text and train a machine learning model on a ton of text to learn how each of these words relate to each of the other words in the sequence. And then eventually, each of these words become essentially a number, a vector that represents that number's relation to all the other words and the corpus. And at the end, when you're generating the next tokens, or when you're generating and predicting the tokens, by tokens I mean the words, you can actually get something that sounds like the thing you trained it on. So if you trained it on a ton of Shakespeare text, if you train this model to keep, if you have the number keeps getting related to all the words surrounding to the, and eventually it's going to say, probably going to have a noun after that the, if you start generating words after the, and then maybe that noun's dog, and if it's the dog, maybe the word after that, the high probability it's going to be something that's like the dog was, the dog is. This is the dumbest way of explaining it, but I'm not an expert in machine learning, but I am starting a machine learning company. Dear God. Okay, so let's worry about that later. For now, we're just going to start web scraping. Okay, and this is important because right now there's a lot of things happening in the data world, and a lot of people just don't know how to get data. I've been scraping for years, and in my opinion, using Node.js, partially because whenever you're web scraping, you're doing it through a browser, and Node.js already comes with the language of browsers, and it makes it very good to utilize certain APIs, which we're about to see, related to the DOM, like with Cheerio, which we won't use, but look it up, and in Puppeteer. And you'll see exactly what I mean when I say use Node.js because it's JavaScript when you're web scraping. You don't have to, but I suggest it. Okay, so let's get started. I'm going to make a web scraper. Or let's call this haxor scraper.js. It's our root file. We'll go back to the to-do. We did this. Oh, set up the file structure. That's enough. Just creating the one file. All right, so in this file, I'm just going to make a function called run. I'm not calling it main. This isn't C. I'm calling it run, and we're going to run the function. And if you don't know how JavaScript works, I'll show you. So if you want to log things, use console log. That's it. Haxor. See? It just outputted that. So we're about to escalate a little bit. So what I want to do in the run is I want to, I want to go hit make a request to HN Algolia. Get the most recent posts and log the output. So let's say save the output to a file. That's all I want to do right now. And we're going to have to model what a post is. So we're going to have to define what a post is. Right now, let's assume a post is the title, date, user, and then comments. And then each, so this is a post. Comment is the content. Definitely missing a ton of stuff. I'm just being a haxor. So the content, the date, user, and we don't have to do subcomments. We don't have to worry about relations and all that. We're just trying to get all the text. In fact, I don't even think we need to model it like post comments. We can, once we get into the transformer part of thing, we can try to create a corpus out of these posts that actually look a certain way, where maybe it's like post text of post. And then like we literally have a token that's comment colon that's pointing to the text of comment. And then we just have like reply to comment. And, you know, that's not great, but we'll figure it out. All right, so now we just want to get the data. We want to make a web scraper. So first things first, whenever I'm going to make this async because I want to use await, which is a way to wait for promises to execute and resolve. So when a promise is a structure in JavaScript that is used in order to promise for an asynchronous, something that requires asynchronous execution. I know I just used the word in the definition, but so for whenever something's doing asynchronous execution, like a request, an HTTP request, something that's operating outside of the runtime, outside of the normal execution in the event loop, all the synchronous execution. So time is now no longer in our world, it's in the outside world. Some things we can't control. Typically, that's a reason for async to happen. But also, if you have set timeouts, things like that. Really anything that takes you out of the normal time flow of things, you're going to have an asynchronous execution. And it's going to, a lot of the times nowadays, it's going to be resolved as a promise in the APIs you use, like fetch. So, real quick, I'm going to show you how fetch works. We won't be using fetch, we're using Puppeteer, but I just want to show you a little bit about how fetch works. So how does this work? I'm like saying all this shit. How does this work? So let's say, let's make a search for all and popularity, all date, all time. Okay, cool. So this is actually getting every single thing, every single comment. So let's actually do stories. So here we're getting all the recent stories. So what I want to do is I want to, let's call this stories. We can call it post. For each post, get all the comments. Okay. So, and we'll evolve this. Eventually, we're going to want to evolve this a little bit. So it looks like I can use this URL. So let me refresh just to be sure. So I can use this URL. Ignore that. So, and then it has pagination, and I can show you how to scrape pagination in a sec. So here, we're going to page 2, and we're on page 1 right now. And cool. All right, so we can actually just keep iterating. We don't even have to simulate a click. We can just do page 1, page 2. Cool. You'll see what I mean in a sec. So this is our URL. Let's fetch this URL. We just want to see if we can actually fetch stuff. So fetch is going to make a request to this URL. If you don't know what an HTTP request is, look it up. And no, so you should look it up, honestly. I can't just explain every single thing. But this is a GET request. I will explain that. So a GET request is, there's different types of HTTP requests. And a GET request is a request that is for fetching, I should use a different word. It's for getting data. So it's for typically a read operation in the CRUD, which you should look up for sure. In the CRUD terminology, is create, read, update, delete, pretty basic. The get is the read. So whenever you go to Google, a GET request is made so you can get the Google website. It's pretty idiomatic how that works. So here we're going to get a response. I'm going to log this response, and you're going to be, and if anyone knows JavaScript, you're like, no, that's not going to work. I know. This is partially education. Cool. So I have this whole object that is, or this class, this instance of this class that is not, like, I can't use this. I'm like, what is this? There's a bunch of timing info. It has a bunch of like stuff that I don't understand. It's fucking bullshit. Just stop. Just kidding. Okay, so what this is a response object. So in JavaScript, there's objects, and these objects often represent classes, and the classes are used to structure things in the real world that you want to use objects in order to represent and pass around and manipulate. That's the benefit of object-oriented programming, is you get to build a structure and you get to create objects in order to interact with your man-made meaningful structure. Here, we actually don't want to, we want to get the raw page text content. So actually, I'm going to say response dot text, I think. I may have to look this up. I'm gonna look up. By the way, I'm not like a super genius that remembers everything. Sometimes I do response.json so much that I sometimes forget the way things work, and that's fine because I'm a man. I'm a living man, not perfect. For instance, I just clicked on Safari by accident, and this is a promise, right? So what do I do that this is a promise? So this text function just returned a promise. I gotta await to resolve the promise. Okay, cool. And this is the text for the whole page. Actually, this is not the text for the whole page. So if you see, so this is why we're gonna use Puppeteer. This is actually very cool that this actually happened. So if you notice, there's no content here. This is not, we can't scrape this. It just has a script tag with a bunch of funny stuff in it that I don't understand. I'm a lead haxor. I don't deal with this. What is this? Okay, so what this, and I'm guessing this is the thing that actually renders the page. But what this is this is a Say it with me. This is a single page, dynamic, stupid, new age app that does a really dumb joke. But yeah, no, this is not a server side SSR rendered website. This is a website that only renders after the page load. So the contentful paint is happening after, I'm guessing this, I don't know for sure, but after this init function runs. But that doesn't work because I need to actually get the data. So what are we going to do? Okay, so without getting frustrated, we're going to use Puppeteer. Now let's get into Puppeteer. So we can't do this. Let me keep this, put this somewhere. Is anyone liking this? I'm just doing this. I did not plan this at all. Okay, so let's, so right, we can't do this because we need to execute JavaScript to see the page. We need to, that's a weird way of putting it, but I think most people get it. So we want to use Puppeteer. We want to simulate a browser, because right here, I'm using a browser to see this. I'm not making a HTTP request. So we want to simulate a browser just like this Chrome browser. And we want to use that simulation, this fake browser, to actually hit the same URL and get the same response. I just clicked on this random thing. But we want to simulate this so that we can get the same looking page right here. Because the first GET request doesn't have any content in it. It happens after JavaScript executes. Oh, I'm not yelling. I'm not mad at you. This is just how I talk. Okay. I'm very disappointed. Your mother and I, very disappointed in you. All right, so let's use some Puppeteer. I think I already have Puppeteer loaded in this library. I'm going to copy and paste some stuff. I know. We don't have to do it all this fancy way I'm doing here. We don't have to be fancy either. But I have a function I use a lot that I will run through. It's good to do things right. You know what? Actually, this function is not that complicated. So it's actually cool. So I know I'm not gonna copy paste a ton of stuff and confuse everybody. I'll explain it. Don't worry. I know people do that in the tutorials. And by the way, let me delete this. By the way, this is, we don't actually have to. Now let's put this in function. We should put it in the function. Okay, so there's a couple things here. Also, we have to import Puppeteer. By the way, it's fine to, copy and paste stuff. If anyone says otherwise, they suck, and they're maybe a 2x max. If you don't copy and paste code that you wrote a lot, you're at max 2x. Maybe 2.5. But the 10x engineers steal all the time. Steal all the time. This is not for kids, by the way. Not for kids. Don't steal. Okay, so we don't really need the viewport here. I'm setting the viewport for specific reasons. By the way, this is for a separate project that I can actually live stream how to code that. It's so experimental that I'm like why even do it, But anyway, so let's get started here. So the way Puppeteer works is first we launch it. Pretty obvious. So we get a browser and we launch whatever is the default, which is a Chromium browser. And then we're defining a new page. And the page is a structure we will do everything on. So this is the sort of entry point into how we will, go to, which is the function to go to different pages, and page evaluate, which is the function to actually like do stuff on the page. And I'll show you everything that you need to do to be the best web scraper elite haxor possible. And a lot of that has to do with DOM manipulation. If you don't know about DOM manipulation, if you don't know about the DOM, look it up. Okay. Now, one thing I do here, so we need the browser and the page. So we do stuff with both. In this script itself, we're probably not going to use the browser a ton, unless we do some like, if we're doing some crazy haxor stuff. But really, we probably just need the page. So first things first, right, I'm going to comment this out. First things first, we have to get our shit. So let's get the browser, let's get the page, let's make it equal to this, and let's run this. And by the way, I'm instantiating these two functions totally different. Defining the functions differently, and here this is a function expression, and this is a function. If you're asking, why do you know all this stuff? Because I'm autistic. Okay, just kidding. I'm not autistic. I might be. You may think that's offensive, but you don't know me. You don't know my life, right? All right, so function expression. I can already hear the typing shit. Okay, so function expression. This is an expression. Whenever you think expression, think math class. Equal sign. I'm creating something that is expression, that has a mathematical expression. It is evaluating to something and resolving and going into a variable. And yeah, this is kind of a variable, but it is a variable. But really, this is just a syntax. Like, this is something that in the JavaScript runtime, these two things mean two different things. And the expression here is something where this expression gets executed in the parsing of the language. So line by line, this will be parsed after this line. This is hoisted. So in the whole function scope, which is everything up at the top, this run function will exist everywhere. That's what the declaration, that's the main difference between function declaration and JavaScript, by the way. We're just talking about JavaScript. And in the function expression is that the function expression is something that is parsed, and it only is executed at the line of the expression. And the function, and this hoisting, it's not so much that it's not executed line by line or parsed, it's more so that the scope of this function is access to this value. So I can run here, but I can't run setup browser here. You say, why? And I say, well, I don't know. No, I mean, well, one, the value of function hoisting was because JavaScript is a language for the web, and typically when you're defining functions in the web, you're defining it so that it can be added to the HTML and on-click events, and it's just not like, it's not a real language, right? Like, it's not something that's, it's not like a, I'm being too hyperbolic. It's a real language, but it's, like, this function hoisting thing isn't that typical. Typically, you'll like have a declaration like this, and then you'll define it like this. That's how most languages are. Okay, so where you're like, and then you can define the types too. Maybe you're like, oh, this like returns a fucking integer or whatever. This is not JavaScript. JavaScript is very dynamic. Okay, why am I talking about this for so long? All right, so let's run this code. See, do we have any errors? Oh, cool. Puppeteer is loading, but nothing's happening because we didn't tell it to do anything. It's telling us to pass headless true. Okay, I don't care about that. All right, so let's do something. Let's await page dot go to, and then let's use our website that we want to scrape. And by the way, if you're just, I don't know why, I don't think anyone's watching this. I don't know why you're coming in right now. But we're making a web scraper to scrape Hacker News, and eventually we're going to use Transformers model to do cool stuff with it. Okay, so let's do, right, this is the, we don't have to put a variable to that. Okay, let's just see if this, so far so good. How's everyone feeling? How are you feeling? Okay, cool. Yeah, I mean, nothing's really supposed to happen. All right, so now let's go into my other code so I can get an example of how to, because I need to, like, see shit. I get it. I actually think I'm just going to use page evaluate for everything, which I'll talk about in a little bit. But I just want to make sure it's the best way to do it. Yeah, I think it is the best way to do it. Yeah, it's hanging because we didn't tell it to do anything. So it went to the page. So there's a lot of ways to use. I'll actually go to their docs just to show you how it gets used. I Google search haxor because I'm an absolute idiot. So let's go and go to the Puppeteer docs because I want to show you all the things we can do here. So I don't want to just like tell you the way I do it because the way I do it isn't that typical. There's a lot of things to do in Puppeteer. So as you see, here are all the API references that we need. We will be using the page class for a lot of stuff. This is why they do most of their stuff with the page class. And so this is a query selector. So here's a little thing. Here's a little education on query selectors and shit like that. So document dot, actually, let me look at the page. So when you're in the browser, by the way, if you haven't seen this before, this is the inspector. Okay, I'm using Chrome. This is the dev tools in Chrome, everything on the right panel here. And I am inspecting this page right now. Okay, this is the inspector. I can right click and I can inspect on things. And it'll open up the dev tools and it'll show me the elements section. And in the elements section, I can see the whole page and I can see cool stuff about it here. So I can go to this H1 tag and I can see all the styles on it, all the computed styles. So this is like, if I do, by the way, this is a little trick. You can use $0 to get the element in the console. This is just a JavaScript console, so I could say do stuff or whatever. And anyway, so the element I selected here is $0. It says equals $0. So I can say $0 dot inner text equals shut up. That changes shut up, right? So here I just manipulated the DOM. Let me change this to I am an elite haxor 10x. So here I'm saying I'm elite haxor 10x, and I'm changing the inner text of the element to be that only on the page. So this isn't actually changing anything outside your browser. Hopefully you understand that. This is not the kids edition of this stream. This isn't the little baby edition, so you should understand something like that. Now we're gonna go. I hope people aren't getting too sensitive about that, but and I can also delete it, right? And then it's obviously now just on the next element. So here now I'm on the P tag. It's highlighted here. So this is a cool way to manipulate the DOM. So we want to do this in code. if we want to say, for instance, let's actually go to our page here. So we want to say, we're using Puppeteer. We want to simulate something where we're like, I want to get every single title here. Because each of these titles has the link. And also I want to get this comment link because we want to get every comment, right? So here I want to inspect element and I want to see what the structure of this is. It's a story title. So this story title here has in the span text of the story title, looks like it's uniquely the span text. So for the span text in the story title, it looks like if I capture that, I can get the text of the story. So I'm going to use a query selector. You should always use query selectors instead of get element by ID because you're an adult. Okay, so we want to say dot story, was it ID? Yeah. I mean class story, and then, why am I going back so many times? But story title, and then query selector. So what's wrong here? We only got the first one, but that's fine. So I'll show you how to get the next one. So what happens, I'm going to get the text here. I'm going to get the inner text. And it's too much stuff. I don't want this. I just want the title. Remember? It was in a span, so now I can update the query selector to only get the spans inside story title. The first span. So this is cool, but we want to get the text for every single thing on the page. So I don't want to just do the query selector because that gets the first occurrence of the selector. I want to get the query selector all. I want to get the I can just copy this. I want to get all of them, and then I want to do stuff with them. And rather than just messing up, I'll show you. You want to do array.from whenever you use this if you want to do stuff. This is actually because first you have a node list, which is an object of the node list class, and you can't do typical array methods on the node list. So you want to convert it to an array using array from, which is going to give us the primitive array. So let's do array from dot map, and let's say, and mapping is a array transformation. That's whenever you're mapping an array of values, you're saying take this array and then do something for every element. That's going to be the function you apply to the array, and it's converted to a new array where every single element has the application, right? It's transformed with the function you pass to it. So, and when you hear the term map reduce, think transformation and then some sort of reduction on that transformation. So it's like, I want to map all the values and then I want to sum them all up together. That would be the reduction, right? Okay, so let's get all the title. Let's say this callback has title, and then we return title dot inner text, and you don't have to say return because this is shorthand. Cool. Now we have all the text of all the articles. So we did web scraping. No, we didn't do web scraping, right? Because this is in the browser. We need to do this in our script so we can like actually code, right? Jesus. Come on. Okay, so now we're going to look at the documentation, and this is what I do every time, and we're going to see how Puppeteer actually works. So let's refresh because I deleted stuff here. But so Puppeteer gives us an ability to use document query selector. But wait a second. We use query selector all. So how do we do that? That's this one. This is query selector all. It's $$. That's the function. $2 signs. Super weird. Don't know why they chose that. They could have just called it query selector all if it runs a query selector all function, right? Like, why just make shit up? Why just be like, oh, $$, because jQuery, I guess, right? Am I a boomer? Am I a 26-year-old boomer? All right. Guys, I've been coding for 14 years. Professionally for over 8 years now. Almost 9 years. But anyway, okay. So let's go back to Sublime Text and let's do page dot $$. And remember, this is going to be a promise. Pretty sure all of these page functions are promises, or most of them. So when you $$ dot story underscore title span, it's going to query selector all these elements. This is our story elements. By the way, when we do this, we capitalize the second term. It's called camel case. It's a JavaScript thing. Let's log the story elements. I actually don't know if this is going to work, because I don't know if we have to wait for the page to load. But let's just see if that works. Oh, it's an empty array. What the fuck? I don't want to enable diction. Okay, so that didn't do anything. Why did it do anything? Okay, so we have to now actually debug stuff and see why this doesn't work. So I'm guessing it's because we have to wait. So I do this like timeout thing typically to wait for the page to load. We can also just wait for, there's like a wait for, I think I'm doing it here. Let me get some other code that I have. This is like kind of like private code that I'm showing you guys. So this code can make millions of dollars. I'm just like showing you. It's crazy. All right, so and then scratch. What's the thing? Yeah, this thing right here. Don't look. It doesn't matter. It's not, I obviously wouldn't show anything that matters. Okay, wait. I just want to see some of the wait for navigation. I just want to copy code. I don't feel like looking it up. That's fine. I'll just look it up. Okay. So we want to wait for an element to show up, and I think we could just get it right here. So we could say wait for. So there's actually a couple things we can do. So we can wait for selector, or we can execute some sort of wait for function that until this function resolves in the actual JavaScript. But let's just do wait for selector, which we don't really have to use the example because we're lead haxors. So, hey, what's up? So let's actually go. Yeah. Probably my brother just joined the stream. All right, what's up, stream? So let's go and can you actually see if this is like actually streaming?
I guess I'm not on the stream.
It's funny. All right, so let's actually get some. So I'm waiting for a selector. So we don't have to wait for all the selectors. So we can just wait for this one selector.
Should have ordered Mexican. I'd be happy right there.
Yeah. Well, eating any food makes you happy. All right, so.
You called me fat?
I said, I mean anyone in general. Jesus Christ. So sensitive. All right.
I called people fat.
I know. All right, so let's see if this actually waits for the selector. It's true. You do have to call people out on being fat. All right. Oh, it actually worked. So so if you see here, the wait for selector. So we did it. So first, and by the way, I'll explain. This isn't the actual data that we need. So first we did the request and it didn't work, right? Because the request was the JavaScript is executed when the browser runs, and that's what actually gives us the data. So that's why we're using Puppeteer. It's this right here. It's this wait for right here. You can't wait when you're doing an HTTP request, right? Because it's just a transaction. It's just like over the wire giving you raw data. But the browser, we're actually opening up a mini Chrome. Well, it's not mini. We're just literally opening up Chrome, and we're saying wait for something, and then like do it, right? Do it as in, like, get the elements right here. So we get all the story elements. These are the story title elements. I like to be super clear because, it's just good to be clear. So, a couple things. I don't typically use this. I use page evaluate for almost everything, and I will show you why in a sec. But for now, let's do a map on this. And then in the map, I think you can just do page.text. Let's look in the docs, right? This is what the docs are for. Page dot.
So that's
Yeah, you can just ignore the docs.
let's go to ChatGPT.
Or you can chat GBT everything. Oh wait, I'm looking at element now, not page. So we just got an element, right? We're not on the page anymore. So we gotta look at their docs for an element. Do they have a search here? Element handle is what they call it. So now we got a list of element handles. And for each element handle, you can do stuff. So let's do, on an element handle, let's get the text, which is it even like here? I'm not a genius. All right, element handle. Pretty sure it's underscore text. Get text. Stack Overflow for everything. Because the thing is, if anyone hates you for using Stack Overflow, they can't 10x. They can only 2x, like I said. All right. Oh, so they're just doing the page evaluate. So I wanted to show you that later, but okay. All right, let's just do the page evaluate. Page evaluate. Can't use a map. Can't use async in a map. So let's do for let title element of. You get. I don't have to do a little story title. Let's just loop through them. It's doing a wait title element dot evaluate. And so what evaluate does is it executes code in the actual browser, and it can give you the actual element, which I believe is the first value right here. Let me just double check. Yep, it is the first value in the callback is the element that you're actually requesting. So here, let's create a new, this is our story text corpus. And let's append this, so text, let's append this, push it to this array, and log it, obviously. Let's see if this does anything. Then my computer's like overworking itself right now. My computer's fat. Nice, that worked. See? So this is like a lot. Like we're doing an evaluation script per story element. I don't like that. I liked how we did it in the browser to test. Like in the browser, we did this thing right here, and it's like super simple. It's not complicated. It's already, so like we prototyped something in the browser, and now we rewrote it in this API. Do you see where I'm going? Like I'm just going to use the evaluate for it. So I'm going to delete all, oh no, delete all this, and then story text corpus is going to equal page.evaluate. We don't have to pass anything to it. And we can copy and paste the script we wrote and just return it. Then await this. And we just condense that into one line. If it works. It might not work. All right, it works. Cool. So we just condense that to one line. Nice. So that's called being 10x. I hope you guys know I'm kidding about 10x. All right, so just kidding. Just kidding. So, story text corpus. Right. So now we have all the text for this. So we want to get the text, but we also want to get objects for each page with the comments, with all the comments in just an array. We don't have to think about the structure. We could do that later, but we don't think about like any sort of structure with the comments, right? In terms of like having subtrees and like all that stuff. We can do that later, but I don't really care. We can just have a one-dimensional array of comments. All right, so I want to have an object. Instead of doing this, I want to have an object that has the story title, and then it has the comments in an array. And we don't have to get date. Let's just do the text. We don't have to get date or anything like that. All right. So we're just getting a pulse on what people in HN are talking about. So this is the structure that I want to get in the end. And let's go. So we can actually do something here. So I'm actually going to get the story corpus. I'm actually not going to get the text here anymore. Because if you notice, every comment section has the title right here and all the comments we need. So we don't actually need to like do anything here. We can just get the links to the comments. We get that in an array instead of the corpus. The story, let's say story links. And let's do A tags, and then let's get the hrefs on each A tag. Oh wait, no, we don't want to do that. Hold on. We want to change our query string to story meta. We get all the story metas. And then we want to get, this is hard. See why it's hard? These spans are anonymous. So we have to get the last A tag. Let me just see. I think it is the last A tag. So we have to do something smart and get the last A tag. So we can't do this. So we have to get all the story metas, and let's actually break this out to a full function. And let's say meta info, and then we want to do another query selector, all. Actually, I think we do a last child. Let me just double check. Last child selector. Just want to double check. I think it's just colon last dash child. Yeah, let's do that. All right, so we can just do a query selector for a last child. Should give us the last A tag. And this is going to give us the comment link comment A tag, hopefully. And then this is, we're going to want to get the href on this, and we're going to return that. This should be a bunch of, so let's log this. Let's see if this actually worked for geniuses. All right. Does anyone feel like a haxor yet? Oh, that worked. Nice. Okay. So now we have all the comment threads for all the story links. And the reason why I'm doing this like this is if anyone wants a web scrape and you're doing this in-browser web scraping, or this headless browser web scraping, you want to get your data first and do stuff with your data, and then you want to start crawling. And you want to save all that data in the runtime. You don't want to start crawling and then go back and then get the next thing and then go back. No, you want to get all your data first, and then you can just crawl referring to the data you store in your runtime. When I say storing stuff in the runtime, I mean storing in memory. And when I say storing in memory, I just mean putting into a variable. Rather than, saying get the story, they could like put this in a for loop, get the first story link, because we're about to do a go-to to go to each of these pages. You don't want to do a go-to in a loop and then go back to the other page, and you just want to get all your data first and then loop through it and then crawl each of the pages. So let's do stuff here. Let me actually double check. Can you check the stream?
Or is it stream?
It's on January 210. I just want to double check. Oh, YouTube.
Okay.
So let's get story links. All right, so and we could just give ourselves a debug.
Subscribe, so I see.
Oh, nice, nice. Is the volume all right, or all right? So let's just say we got stories, and then
the cameras are moving.
Oh yeah, yeah. It's because I'm like text. Yeah, okay. I mean that's just how it's gonna have to be. I don't know. Something more stable. We don't have to look at my face here though. All right, so let me get that box.
It's tall,
That's fine. All right, so story. Well, in the future, I'll use this box. We make it. That's the 10x engineer.
But also,
we move fast. We move too fast for boxes.
You can make you smaller too. It's up like.
Yeah, why the fuck is it that big?
I would make it smaller.
What the fuck?
Can you just make it a bit smaller?
Let me do this.
Oh, yes.
Did it not?
Well, yeah, that's better.
Oh, you saw the change? Nice.
And I also saw you're recording a full desktop, so I could also see.
I know. I don't care. I don't care about that.
It's just. Yeah, I mean. In the future.
So let's do a go-to for each story link. Thank you. Let's do a go-to for each story link, and after, so the routine here is we need to get the title and the. We can, by the way, I know we can keep the title here, but I just like keeping everything on the same page. If it's on that page, like we can store the title here and everything, but it doesn't matter too much. But all right, so get the title and the, let's see, comments. All right, so go to, so we don't really have to wait for anything here because we're leaving HNM Algolia now, and we're going to Hacker News, which is a static server-side rendered HTML site, super easy to scrape, kind of by design. This is the structure, everything's simple. Let's go and get this title. Remember, I just realized you probably couldn't see any of the shit I was doing before with my big face in the screen. It's funny. But, all right, so we have this right here, which is the title line in the dot title. Let's assume this is unique. So I'm going to be like queries. Remember, this is the loop. So I say dot title, and then I say dot title line. All right, cool. So what I mean by this is the loop. This is your work loop when you're web scraping. Do query selector stuff in your inspector. Get those scripts. And then do those in page evaluates in the Puppeteer page.evaluate. That's it. You know, and then go to keep crawling. Super easy. So now we're going to take this query selector and we're going to go and we'll do page dot selector. Why did I just do that? page.evaluate. So we can actually get everything we need. This is our story data. Let's actually get story data, because this, and then this is story data item. This is the story data item right here. So we want to push up, well, let's do one thing at a time, but we want to push up the data we get in here inside and add that to story data over and over again. So let's move this query selector. We don't have to wait because we're now executing stuff in JavaScript and query selectors are synchronous. So now we can say get title, and we can just assume inner text right here. Let's just say title, because we want to return a story data item. So we have the title. Now we just need to get the content of the comments. Context. Is that enough? I'm going to do .comment.context and query selector all. And I'm assuming that C00 thing is not what we want. 16. Are there 16 comments? Yes, there are. Okay. So we want to do a comments. Remember, you got to use array from, because you have to, because query selector all gives you a node list, which you cannot run array methods on or easily iterate over. So we want to map this with comment L, and then return comment L dot inner text. Maybe trim just in case. And we get our comments. And now we return this in the story data item. And now we got the story data. And then we got the story data item to push this. And now let's log our story data. And I like to, for all my logs, I like to tag them. So once I have a complicated app with a ton of logs, I just tag everything. All right. And actually, let's just say this is page. So eventually we're going to loop through all the pages until we don't have a page. And we'll figure out how to do that. All right, so let's go in here, and we got 30 new stories. Boom, it broke. Because I misspelled evaluate. Okay, I'm now a 9x engineer. All right, let's go and see if this works. Second try. We got 30 new stories, and it didn't work second try. Okay, so inner text. Now I'm a 10x lead haxor scraper or engineer, so I know how to check line numbers. So I know that this is on 36 index on line 48. Okay, so line 48. Okay, so here's another thing with page evaluate. Page evaluate, when the code inside of it breaks, it gives you the line of the whole entire page evaluate. So try not to make too much code inside of these page evaluates. And also you can't put functions in here too. Like you can't like load up a function in here and execute it, which sucks, but it's, you know. All right, so inner text, what broke? Selector. I don't know which one of these things broke, but I'm guessing it is not this, because you can't map. Because if this array from this query selector all can't return null things in the node list, or it doesn't. So when this array from, if this was empty, this array from wouldn't have anything that would be null. Right? So I'm going to use my discernment to guess that it's line 49. So this is resolving to null for some reason. I don't know why. So let's go figure out why. It's not null right here. And resolved is null, and maybe it's because the go-to isn't working. So maybe we have to wait. So let's see. Just want to make sure. Going to story link. So let's do some debugging. We didn't do it first try or second try, so we're still 9x, but you know. Oh, it actually did it for some of these. Oh, you know probably why. So it actually did it for each of these pages, but it didn't do it. Broke on this page. So I'm gonna guess it broke because this page. Wait, what? Oh, this page doesn't fully exist. It does. Oh, it doesn't have any comments. So the structure of this page is different. Well, that looks like the same structure. Let's see. It's the same structure. It's dot title. Well, what we can do is, if actually, do the other ones not have? The other ones have comments or not have comments? None of these have comments until. What is this one called? Oh, this is page 2. So now we're just debugging things. Okay, so 5 plan. Oh, none of these have comments anyway. But I go to this comment, and these worked fine. And then we go to this one, and it doesn't work. So you know what I'm probably gonna do? I'm gonna start logging. Yeah, I'm gonna start logging. Actually, I just realized we want to get the A tag anyway. Let's actually do this instead. And let's log title. I also think we need to add the script to log stuff inside there. Let's see. Yeah, it didn't get any of those logs. Can't read properties of null. This is the same page that's breaking, I think. The same thing. That was a different page that's breaking. Wait, what? Oh, I did the same thing again. Okay. Lucid's Tech Talks. Curious, why is this page broken? You know what? Our script in the Puppeteer is not giving us the same HTML as in the browser. So you know what I will do? I think it's going to get a title. Actually, you know what? Let's do a wait. Let's wait for selector. And let's wait for title A. Let's be safe. And if it doesn't, we can just ignore the page. Oh, interesting. It never runs. So let's do this. When we go to, because the go to, it's gonna wait for, after the go to, we'll be able to log the text to the first render. So we can actually run a page evaluate, and in the page evaluate, we can log document.body dot outer HTML. Actually, let's return it because I need to add something to log stuff in there. Body HTML. So we're just debugging. So this isn't like, you know, if you're a lead haxor, you debug. All right, it's gonna log a ton of stuff. Okay, so what does this look like? So this is, we're not able to serve your request this quickly. Okay, we're getting rate limited. All right, so what do you do when you're elite haxor and you're getting rate limited? Here's where you pretend like you're a real person. And by doing that, we're going to do some timeouts. Because real people don't just click, 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 click. Real people, and let's make an expression. Real people don't just click, click, click. Real people wait and do stuff, and then click, and then wait, do stuff. And when you're trying to get data you're not supposed to, you have to act like a real person. So let's get a promise. So this is like a, real quick, this is just something I use. This is a promise that resolves a set timeout, and you pass it the milliseconds as an argument, and that's it. It's just a way to simulate a timeout or a sleep function. You can call this sleep for any Python people. All right, so let's go, and every time we do at the end of this function, let's await a sleep for 1 second. Let's see if this is too slow. Or this is not too slow, if this is too fast. So yeah, Hacker News didn't like how fast we were going. Let's go a little bit slower. Let's see if we pass that marker. It still doesn't like it. Okay. Oh wait, it's still going. Never mind. Nice. Nice. We just did an exploit at a very minimal, at a very basic level. It's not rocket science. We're not, we're not reverse engineering Chromium. But really, this is whenever you hit something like that, you gotta, whenever you're oh, nice. This worked. We got a ton of comments. So notice how there's a lot of these threads where there's no comments in here, or a lot of these things with no comments. So one optimization is, instead of actually going to the page, because if we actually know if a page has comments when we do this part. So we can say if this has no comments, don't even go to the page and just preload the object. But it's not that big of a deal. So cool, we got one page. We got the comments on the page of recent things. So let me actually, now realizing I want to get popular things. I don't want to get recent things. I want to get the most popular things in the past week. So actually, to do that, let's go and ignore these crazy searches I did. Okay, so let's go by popularity in the past week and how many things are there. Let's make sure. Wow, there's a lot of stuff here. Wow. We don't need that much data. It's fine. Okay, so let's just do 24 hours. Oh wait, it goes down to 34. All right, let's do past week, and then let's just stop at 10. And let's go get this again. So now we have our new URL, and we're gonna go get this. Assume it's just gonna work the same. And cool, so we actually are able to, so everything in this run function right now is for one page of story data. So I want to do 10 pages. So we're going to have to do some pagination, web scraping. So we're going to have to loop through each page. And the way we do that is, let's make a function. Let's order our code a little bit better. So get story data from page index. I just started writing things without thinking. All right, and then now we can pretty much everything in here we just take out and add in here. We got to get the page object. I think what else do we need? No, we just need the page object. Nice. Sleep is a global. All right. And let's go. And let's say my pages to scrape, or page limit. Use our SQL terminology. Or just life terminology. Limit's pretty basic. So let's say for let page of, or we don't have to do that. We just do a normal for loop. Less than page limit I++. We can run passing the page, wait, and we use I. I think the index is 0. So we want to do that. So what I'm doing here is oh yeah, we get the story data. And then in the end, we want to have a whole object of story data that we want to keep. All story data equals an array. And when we get story data back, we want to concat story data to this array. And then we just want to make it equal. So we're just saying keep merging these arrays. Concat, it's optimized enough for this to not be a crazy function. Instead of logging it, we can just return it. And we don't have to keep logging. Or I don't even think that log was working, but we don't have to keep logging stuff here. Actually, I do want to keep logging this in case our sleep. Just in case I want to sleep a little bit more. I just want to make sure we don't get rate limited crazy. So let's go and we got blank new stories, and let's start, let's say, scraping page index from HN Algolia, and then let's use the page index here, and let's go. And by the way, I'm just like using these semicolons randomly, pretty much. I know some people like to use strict at the top. I don't. We're lead haxors, so we don't have to like check our code or anything like that. All right, so final story data, or all story data. And then let's just log this big object. Now let's just, for now, to test the pages, let's do 3 pages. And this is, by the way, this is just a regular for loop right here. This is traditional for loop. You're going to see in C, you're going to see this in Java, you're going to see this in Rust, you're going to see this. This is how for loops are just done. You have 3 statements. You have your statement where you're initializing your value. You have your restraint. So it has to, your constraint, it has to constrain to this Boolean value. And then you have something that happens at the end of each block. So at the end of each block, it's going to run I++. So a little interview question. What is I++ going to be after this runs? You'd be like, oh, it's going to be 2, or it's going to be like, because if I log I in here, it's just going to log 0, 1, 2. No, it's going to log, in the end, it's going to be 3. And if you said that, you wouldn't get the job, right? It's going to be 3 because it's at the end, it executes this right here. So it's going to run I++ again after this runs, and then it's going to check this constraint again. And then 3 is obviously not less than 3. Okay, cool. So let's go and run this. Let's see if, and actually before we run this, let's save this to a file. I want to save this to a JSON file. And if you don't know, in Node.js, we can use the file system to save stuff. So I'm going to say fs.write file sync, and I'm going to say scraped haxor data.json, json.stringify, and then all story data, and UTF-8 encoded, which I don't think we need to do. All right. Count. Let's just log the count, and then let's just say, and in the end, so this is a promise here. So this isn't actually like resolving properly the way we had it. So let's actually return something right here. Let's return. All right, let's run this. Let's see if this works. Scraping page 0. We got 30 stories. Forgot it's slow. Well, you know, it's a little slow, but we do what we can. Maybe I should just change it back to one second. Maybe that was overkill, but you know, I'm sure this is gonna take quite a long time. Maybe I should have just did 2 pages. I'm too bored for this, right? Jesus Christ. Okay, so the things we do to hack. Let's make this like 800. Let's push the limits on this. Let's see if that'll make it a little faster. And let's try not to get, you know, detected. We might though. I don't know. If it stops here. No? Okay. Alright. Nice. I guess their bot isn't that smart. We can also do some randomization and just pick a random thing between like 100 and 800 milliseconds or 100 and 1,000 milliseconds. That's one thing I like to do. If I scrape, I don't scrape though, right? It's very bad. Okay, so while this is happening, let's go and run through our code and see if we're missing anything. Let's just see if we can make this better in any way. So we have a function right here, the run function, puppeteer. And we have some stuff. Did we do all the stuff we said? We actually did do all this stuff. Nice. Yeah, we have the thing that doesn't work. We don't need that. Hey, it's actually doing the next page. Nice. Let's make sure this isn't doing the same page. 176. Nice. This better not break in the end. That would suck. So one thing we can actually do is we can just save this file every time. Just so we can, like, you know, not just like run a ton of stuff and then like just stream this data more so. Let's see, cool. We're almost done. And obviously you can see we could run this for a certain amount of time and then eventually it would we'd get all of Hacker News' website, right? We could also, if we really wanted to go crazy, we could maybe open up some multiple Lambda functions in parallel, you know, and make a botnet. I mean AWS Lambda functions. You know, that's always a possibility. Botnets are always. Oh, why is it stopping? Uh-oh. Let's see, we can catted console log. Interesting. So it stopped at the end. That's actually hilarious. I think it. Wow, it stopped in the last one, waiting for selector. Wow, we got in the last thing we got rate limited. That's crazy. 900. All right, well, I'm gonna make this just like 2 pages next time. And let's do a try. Let's put this in a try catch. Let's see, what is this? This is a 30-second, 30 millisecond. I know there's some way we can there's a way we can do something about that, but let's not do that. Let's just continue. We can make this not 30 seconds, but for now let's keep it at 30 seconds just to make it very clear what's happening. And I boosted this. I'm gonna boost this back to a second because. So what if you're not sure what just happened? We got the same thing as we got before. So we were making too many requests. Let's see if they like did something with our IP to mess up our IP. Yeah, they flagged our IP. Wow. Okay. Well, that's life. All right, so we could just change our data. I'm live streaming, so I'm not gonna change my data, but we did it. All right, so but if you wanna, there's a couple things you can do to get around this. Have randomization on your timeouts. And then you can also, let's see. So we also don't know their algorithm. So there's a couple things. Oh yeah, we can also try masking our IP. And you can also try doing the botnet thing. So do this on AWS instances or whatever cloud service you want to get. And anything where you can fire off and provision servers quickly, you can run the scripts like this. Let's see. Yeah, I mean, those are honestly some of the best ways to do it. Also, so our browser here, I'm not sure what our user agent is, but we can also fire off with multiple user agents that are real. I don't know if this is like user agent puppeteer, but yeah, so this is how you web scrape, you know, like an elite haxor. Comment if you have any questions or if you want to just talk about anything web scraping related, or just don't comment, you know, it's cool too. All right. It was fun while it lasted. See you next time.